which to some might feel detrimental to the quality, but to me it's the biggest plus. It is what makes the quality of Black Clover. It's precisely this. It's precisely this very element that seemed to make people unhappy that made me. Hello and welcome. I hadn't released a video talking about Black Clover for maybe 4 to 5 months, and maybe that was partly due to me just being lazy, having had other priorities the last months, but also after the release of chapter 331, 331, the mangaka Tabata took a 3 months break, and as of the release of as of this video, the latest chapter 336, 336, and the next chapter being 337. I want to kind of wrap this up and talk about my feelings, what I feel, where Black Clover is, and where I think this is gonna go. So I feel with the last chapters leading up to the defeat of the Supreme Devil Lucifero, chapters about 325, 26, 27, 28, up to 23. These were all chapters dedicated to the fight of Asta and the captains and Yuno and all of our good guys trying to take down Lucifero. And the fight got its conclusion with Asta smacking down Lucifero with his giant demon slayer sword, maybe his most iconic sword, his first sword. And maybe some fans felt unsatisfied. That was my impression I got watching lots of videos on YouTube, reading comments in the comment section and on Twitter, that I felt there are people in the Black Clover fan community, maybe these are just verbal people, the most verbal, that were not happy the way this fight ended, that it seemed like he was the number one. He was like, he had the highest rank, and that the characters pretty much only won through plot armor. More than that, actually, Tabata kind of revealed, retrospectively rectified the battle by giving hints that it was actually through time manipulation of of the Wizard King, who in truth turned out to be one of the Zagret family, who's also a devil host. Rewinding time to give the best outcome for the heroes, giving us the readers this kind of strange impression of how the fight went, and making it seem like the heroes, the characters, Asta had way too much plot armor. But I think even with that retrospective, even with that retrospectively being rectified, I don't think it was such a bad battle. I think that's a point that I feel people in the community watching Black Clover always seem to miss out a little bit, is that Asta's ability is a one-hit knockout ability, that if he can make a strike, if he can land it, he most likely takes down opponents in one or few hits and or cripples them and leaves them in a state where they are no longer able to compete on the levels they were before. That's due to the nature of Asta's magic, or in this case, um, he doesn't have real magic. His ability being anti-magic, which nullifies, cancels, um, and thus evens out any other ability, no matter how strong it is. And we've seen that opponents to really harm Asta need to rely on physical strength or landing physical hits. Even if it's boosted through their own magic abilities, they need to come in with physical attacks, fist kick, sword attacks, throwing stones or physical objects at Asta. So it's never magic that takes down Asta. It's always injuries through physical trauma. And Asta, once he gets a strike in on his opponent, that's pretty much the win. And the evolution has been, in my mind, that Asta always won his battle through group effort, where other characters, actually stronger characters, put Asta in the center, making their strategies, their battle plan resolve around Asta, with him as the pivotal centerpiece to take down an even stronger, bigger opponent. Um, and this has been the same throughout all of Black Clover. Asta finally having his Devil Union showed him on a completely different level. Asta's power level escalated and topped everything before. That's a natural progression in Shōnen Manga and Shōnen stories. And of course in their anime adaptation. But Asta had always been special, in my opinion, in that it's stated in many times in the manga that it is a world where magic means everything. And Asta, with his anti-magic, is the one person who cancels all of that out. And him with his Devil Union, where he took down the Supreme Devil of the first layer of the Glyphos, that was Asta first time showing his supremacy and showing that classic shonen main character badassness, where he pretty much single-handedly took down Lilith and screw it. So either way, Asta, since he got his Devil Union, his abilities peaked to quite new levels. But then with the introduction of Lucifero, the manga went back to its old structure, making Asta again the pivotal centerpiece to the strategy of defeating the opponent, in this case Lucifero, but still relying heavily on other characters to work around him, to complement him. And I think ultimately it was a good battle. I think the battle against Lucifero, looking at it over the stretch of many chapters, was a really good battle, and I think it did the manga and the story justice. I think it served the story well, and I didn't share that feeling, that animosity. And I was thinking, I was thinking, what was it about the battle that fans were not happy with? I think one aspect is the way Lucifero ultimately went down. But another thing is that Lucifero, that prideful devil that seemed to be above anyone and think himself to be above all devils and above above humans even more, who seemed so prideful and then so whimsical and almost begging for his life and trying to run away with the tail between his leg. Kind of like, okay, you defeated me, but next time, I'm gonna come back and screw you. So, but I think that's really nice. I think that's quite this contrast to how he behaved, and then once his world view of him being far superior to everyone, to everything, to humans the most. How that worldview broke down, and how that arrogant devil fled with tail between his legs. I think I think that was great. I think this is this kind of unorthodox, unusual writing that Tabata once in a while sprinkles into the manga here and there, which is also found in situations like the Battle of Magna versus Dante, where a character which is far, far, far from being one of the main cast, one of the main character, a character who had probably one of the least impressive abilities, a character that was introduced as just a side character very, very early on in the story, just a commoner, someone without impressive, strong magic. Magna, who was pretty much considered the weakest and most unspecial out of the Black Bulls. Like everyone, even if they were weak, had some kind of special, unique, niche ability, niche magic, like Gosh with his mirror magic, or um, Gray with her transformation magic, which actually turned out to be more than just transformation, but kind of like a alchemistic transmutation, being able to change the characteristics of objects, having been able to heal even a large wound and gouge. Yami, of course, the captain, who, aside from just being insanely strong, also has his key ability of reading ki, also has his shadow magic. So the Black Bulls always had been the group, the magic squad with the most diverse, with the most unique kinds of magics, with the most versatile set of abilities. And Magna had always been a very simple person. His magic was just fire magic, flame magic. He could throw tiny punny fire projectiles that he would throw like a baseball bat, and his magic resolved kind of around a baseball theme. Him being a batter and throwing his projectiles and then hitting them with a fire bat, but nothing impressive. So him kinda acquiring some kind of trap magic, acquiring different knowledge from Zora that he implemented into his magic, and him being the weakest and developing a technique that works around that, turning the tides and making him compete with one of the, at that point in the manga, at that story, at that phase, made it impossible for him to compete one of the strongest characters, Dante, who was at that time the devil host of Lucifero. That was the most impressive thing, and this is this unorthodox, unusual way of writing and presenting characters, which is one of the most charming points for me about Black Clover. It's not that escalation, the great fights. Of course, Black Clover has lots of elements, but these are elements that are um, found in other shonen manga as well. You can read Boku no Hero Academia, you can read One Piece, you can read even older, now finished series like Naruto. Of course, we have other series with other amazing, interesting characters that are super relatable with interesting plots building, and world and character building. But it is this unorthodox, unusual way of making characters behave and making things play out, which other stories would shy away from. In another manga, a side character as unimportant as Magna would never ever have been even given the chance to defeat a main antagonist. I think another point, I talked about Dante, the previous host of Lucifero, and many fans were maybe not happy that the trio, the Zagrat siblings, we now know it's there's like a fourth sibling, that they're actually quadruplets. Um, with the introduction, or with the reveal of the Wizard King of the Clover Kingdom being actually the fourth sibling. But to that later, fans felt that those three siblings who were built up to be the main antagonists, who were each hosts of high ranking, of the highest of the supreme devils, that these were kind of butchered and didn't have such a pivotal role as the main antagonists, and the focus of the story quickly shifted to Lucifero alone, with his appearance, with him emerging in person. And I think again, this ties into Black Clover's unusual pacing and unusual writing, which to some might feel detrimental to the quality, but to me it's the biggest plus. It is what makes the quality of Black Clover. It's precisely this. It's precisely this very element that seemed to make people unhappy that made me happy with the story. And we got a pretty nice conclusion. I mean, what other conclusion could there be aside from the big baddie, the villain, going down and being defeated? At some point, Lucifero had to be defeated, because in the end, as unusual, unorthodox as Black Clover wants to be, or the mangaka wants his story to be, there's a limit in the end. If the bad guy wins and the world ends, then that's the end of the story. That would make the story a tragedy. But he ended it in a really nice way. I think Lucifero was kind of an example. Lucifero's meaning for the story had always, in my opinion, been to open up and set a prime case of how strong are the strongest devils, and with the reminder that he had only emerged 50%, with 50% of his full strength. How strong the strongest of the devils at 50% is, and having not emerged the other devils of the Clyphos, level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I forgot how many levels there were. I think it's only 8. So with all the other devils in between, only Lilies and Nama, I think that's the name of the Dew, the level 1 Clyphos devils. Then the level 2 Clyphos devil, Adramelech, who's still alive. More to that later. And then all the devils in between up to Lucifero, not having had much of an in-person appearance. Some of the devils we don't even know of yet, how they look, what's their name, what's their ability. And this leaves room for Tabata, the mangaka, the author, leaving them as potential antagonists for later on in the story, and at the same time having set an example with Lucifero, how strong are these devils, like giving kind of an out to look. And Lucifero is not lost in total. The fight ended with his heart having been taken by Adramelech, and then it seems all according to the plot of the Force, the Zogratis siblings. Damn names. So, all according to the plan, the scheme of the Force Zogratis sibling, the Wizard King of the Clover Kingdom. And handing the heart, and as it seems the power, the very core of Lucifero, to the Wizard King, who now seems to be in possession of 2 devil powers. The 2 powers of the 2 highest of the supreme devils, the 2 highest of the devils of the Clyphos. And before the skip and the break that Tabata took for the manga, the last chapter, 331, left us with a few cliffhangers, but also a few revelations. One of them that Yuno's mother is still alive. How much that contributes to the story positively, I don't know. It seems his dad is still dead, so... but it's nice he has a relative, a family member still around. It seems not to take away from Yuno as a character, but it also doesn't add value to the story. I always would have wished in the long run of the story that, because there can only be one Wizard King, and it's gonna be Yuno or Asta, that Yuno would kinda settle for being the king of the Spade Kingdom, and Asta would turn out to achieve his dream, becoming the Wizard King, and them two forming some kind of alliance as brothers, and having the Clover and the Spade Kingdom be even more of brother nations in the future, in the in-world future of Black Clover. which Yuno sadly turns down, it seems. And also Asta having his short conversation with Liebe, once again giving a close up on the clock in the background, which many people in the community have pointed out to has already been the story tool to point the reader towards the circumstance that everything that the times of the fight of the whole invasion onto the Spade Kingdom, that all the times um, of the from all in between of the battle transpiring, that these times didn't match up, that things were odd, that things were kind of like um, screwed. So it was pointed out correctly by many fans and other YouTube channels that time probably got rewinded multiple times to make everything match up. So Asta would arrive in the right time, Asta would defeat the level 1 Clyphos Devils, the Du, Lilies, and Nama just in time. The uh, Zogratis family, the three siblings, all having been defeated just in time, just perfectly. Um, the door to the underworld having been further opened just perfectly in time, and Lucifero emerging also just perfectly in time, having it all set up perfectly just for the heroes, the main cast, Asta and the captains and Yuno and all around him, just for them to be in the right position to be capable of defeating Lucifero, opening the prospect of time possibly having been rewinded every and any time things might have not been according to plan, answering why they ultimately succeeded in beating Lucifero, even though it seemed that even the 50% Lucifero was far, far above the characters in terms of power. And Asta shouldn't have been capable of using his Devil Union so many times and in such quick succession, as it was pointed out that he had the time limit of 5 minutes and then a recovery time of, I think it was 30 minutes. So things wouldn't have worked out to begin with, and that was probably one of the factors that contributed to them beating Lucifero. But now to how I feel about the story after the time skip. So Tabata had a lot of time to think things out and how to progress things. I think he laid down the tracks for the story, for the final act, for the battle against the Wizard King, the fourth sibling, who turns out to be quite similar to William, having two minds in his heart, or two souls in his mind, whatever way. Also having his own innate magic, being soul magic, which seems to be quite overpowered. Maybe it's inspired by Jujutsu Kaisen recently. I hope not. I don't think so, as soul magic seems to be in line with the magic of his siblings. His sister having Vanika having blood magic, his brother Dante having um, body magic, and his other little brother having bone magic. So they all have a magic resolving around the theme of the body, the body bone, blood, body, and soul. So he might have taken inspiration from Mahito, a Jujutsu Kaisen character, a, a different manga by a different mangaka that I don't talk much on this channel. But I think it's absolutely in line with the set of abilities of his siblings. So I think he plans this out beforehand, not in response to Jujutsu Kaisen. But quite an overpowered ability, and that in combination with his time magic, which seems to stem from the devil that he's in union with, or he has a contract with, which is revealed finally by name, which is one of the biggest things that is maybe not talked so much about. The name being Astaros. Astaros, Asta. So in chapter 332, we see the Wizard King, Lucius Zogratis, the eldest of the Zogratis siblings, seems to eat the heart and then crashes the banquet held for Asta in celebration of his promotion. We very quickly get an escalation, but prior to that, we see some time of the chapter dedicated to Asta confessing to Sister Lily. And Asta's confession to Sister Lily seems like a very sincere confession, and she turns him down. And this is the first time that we don't see Asta in a comedic, comical fashion, um, doing some strange, silly face, but he takes it and he says, "That's okay." Like, he moves on with it, and I didn't really expect. I thought, like, come on, like, I was waiting 3 months for this chapter, and again it's just like, Sister Lily, I want to marry you. Like, oh come on, like, can't we can't we get some attention on more serious plot, like some serious revelations, be it some action or funny character dialogue, or like some revelations, some world or character building. And when I was reading that chapter at first, I was like, oh my god, I was waiting for that 3 months. But I think Tabata closed a chapter, and I mean a chapter in Asta, in his character development. And he always wanted to be the Wizard King and marry Sister Lily, but I don't think that seemed like a really serious um, prospect. Like, their relationship, when Asta was a small baby, Sister Lily was already an adult woman that came to the church to took care of Asta and Yuno from the time they were pretty much infants. So that seemed like a mismatch. I think it's he has a much better potential match in his peers with Noel or even Mimosa. So, but all the fun and silliness aside, I think it was really good to have that sincere, honest proposal be turned down in a sincere and honest way, and Asta taking it and moving on. And another thing was that in this chapter, even through the readers were in the picture, knew about Charlotte's love and affection for Yami, but her always turning tail in a comedic way. And but Yami, he was completely oblivious up to that chapter. And him sitting on the pot on the toilet and thinking about finally realizing, oh my god, she loves me. That's kind of great. That was peak humor, and at the same time true to character, that is Yami, and also at the same time not so silly. Like it sets the stage for characters finally knowing where they are and in what relation they are with each other. So I think Tabata chose with that chapter after the break to set the tone. And chapter 333 followed pretty much up on that with a short flashback of Lucius giving us the name of his devil, Asteros, giving us already hints of his plan, what is his ambition, and why he came specifically for Asta. As he points out, Asta seems to be the linchpin, the thing or the being in the world of Black Clover that opposes his ideals, his goals the most, aside from Yuno, as he later points out. And chapter 334 follows up. Lucius and both Asta show their proficiency and how their magics fare against each other. And yes, it seems time magic is an absolutely busted magic, like OP beyond imagination. It's probably the most OP busted magic that's introduced so far in the Black Clover universe. But Asta seems unaffected by it. He seems unaffected by time being frozen around him. It's not possible for Lucius to just freeze time and Asta in place, and even things and attacks he throws at him, Asta can negate with his attacks. So even condensed attacks thrown at him, Asta is capable of erasing. And we see Lucius getting a hold of Asta, touching him, and being surprised that his soul magic has no effect on him. Magic that seems to have the capability, the power to alter someone's soul and thus their mind. Another, it seems, pretty busted OP power. So yeah, devil hosts are introduced as pretty OP due to the nature of them having their own innate magic and the devil's magic. So two magic attributes, something which is not existing in the Black Clover world, with again the big exception, Yuno, being pointed out, also quite busted and OP. And it's pointed out here through Lucius' inner monologue that his magic seems to have little to no effect on Asta, which is why he restrains himself to physical attacks. And he points it out really clearly in the manga that he says, physical attacks are the only thing that works against Asta, as all other magic is pretty much meaningless in the face of Asta's anti-magic, and it requires overwhelming physical power to beat Asta as someone who's using anti-magic. So a fight versus Asta is pretty much a physical fight, and this is also in tune with the fight of Asta versus Lucifero several chapters before, where we saw Lucifero trying to evade any kind of hit from Asta, being very wary of the capability of anti-magic, being capable of injuring him through having cut off his horn and injured his body, that even single attacks, should they connect, would be fatal, but at the same time being physically in sheer strength way superior to Asta and faster. So this is something that we see again, that Lucius, through the making use of his time magic, seems to be able to accelerate very quickly, to almost warp around, and possibly due to his main devil, or also due to having ingested the heart of Lucifero, being physically strong and capable to contend with Asta. So it's made clear that most characters, no matter how strong they are, no matter how superior their magic is, no matter how many magic attributes they have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, their magic will always be grounded in the face of anti-magic, and they have to restrain themselves, they have to refrain from using magic, not as a means to boost their capabilities, but as a means to attack primarily. But Lucius displays an almost frightening but also amazing use of his soul magic ability, seemingly being capable of flipping around his devilish abilities to something angelic, something pure, turning this impure, dark, negative energy, this devilish energy, his devil, into something pure, graceful, angelic, an angel. And there have been people who theorize that due to the nature of devils being present in the story, and them also in their naming being borrowing their names from Abrahamic Judaism, Christianity, Islam, borrowing their names from these religions, that there might also be angels, that there might also be a god in the world of Black Clover, which seems not, I mean, it's not ruled out from this point, but which seems not so much the case, but the theme of these two differences, of this dichotomy, this polarization, these polar opposites of dark and light, that this has been hinted at, and that the final opponent, the last arc, the final enemy, are not devilish foes, are not devils, but quite the contrary, are angel foes. And in Abrahamic religions, the lore, so to say, or the story is that devils are fallen angels, and Lucius, with his soul magic, being capable of switching around that and kind of turning them pure again, is a nice play. But again, this just shows how broken, how OP, how busted that ability is. And we see him making use of that ability and turning himself into a devil host, going into a devil union mode, which is not a devilish, a devil union mode, but seems more like an angel union mode, turning himself into a graceful, angelic, bright, white being, um, and also using his ability to implant Beelzebub, the space devil, also one of the Clyphos devils, into Lily, using then his soul magic to change her soul, adjust her soul, and with that her mind, and turning her into also one of his, I don't know how we can call it at that point, followers. And I think Lily is built up to be also one of the antagonists, possibly a future match for Noelle. With chapter 335, we see a short display of her abilities, Lily's abilities, when Noelle and Mimosa come to Asta's aid. And I think from a plot perspective, having Lily switch from that caring person who has always been so close to Asta to becoming an antagonist is interesting, but at the same time, I'm kind of disappointed as Beelzebub is a really high ranking devil. His magic, spatial magic, magic, is also one of the most broken, strongest magic attributes. It is stated that there are not many people capable of spatial magic, but her own inherent magic being just water magic, but not even her not being even on the same level as more proficient characters like Noelle or Lolopechka. I think she's kind of a disappointing devil host, or at this point, should we say angel host? But nevertheless, her use of spatial magic, or possibly it seems to be a spatial realm in combination with water magic, I feel it's not clearly elaborated. Either way, it makes short process of Noelle and Mimosa, and she also teleports Asta somewhere away. Thus, Asta seemingly being defeated, gone. And the chapter just ends with the captains rushing in. Chapter 336 made it clear that no, or at least not a lot of fighting further transpired. It would have been interesting to see at that point how the Magic Knights, the full assembly of knights, all of them in their peak state, not being worn out, being tired, injured, how they fare in the fight. All the knights versus the Wizard King, Julius / Lucius. Damn, people have so many names by now. So that would have been interesting, but that did not play out. Instead, we get a transition to the knights being assembled again and Yuno coming back from his trip. Everyone clearly distraught. And we see Yami asking Nacht if he can locate Asta, and him stating that he can warp into people's shadow. How that works clearly. Is it just people that he knows of? Or can he warp into anyone's shadow everywhere, anywhere in the world? Regardless, he cannot pick up Asta, making it clear Asta is either dead or pretty far away. And Yuno references a fight, or at least a feint, from Adramelech, which is then in the next scene picked up again by Adramelech returning to Lucius and reporting about his confrontation with Yuno, telling us, the reader, also that in that 1 year, in that break, Yuno's proficiency and thus his power seems to have grown extraordinarily to the point where he can make short process of even high ranking devils. And here we're not talking about low or mid ranking, high ranking devils. So it's to assume that in a one-on-one fight with most supreme devils, the current Yuno would stand a chance pretty well. At least that's the implication to me as the reader. And Lucius states Yuno to be the last threat to his plan, and he phrases this in a way that he says, in every scenario where he failed, which is hard to gauge, like measure depending on the translation and possible errors, but he seems to say either in every scenario where he failed or in that 1 out of 1,000 scenarios where he failed, it had always been due to Yuno opposing him. So this is very interesting that even Lucius does not rule out defeat to the reader, and giving a prospect of hope to us readers, hope, and making it clear that Yuno is the biggest threat to Lucius' goal, and the significance and importance of Yuno to the story. Lucius makes it clear that he needs to crush Yuno. On the other hand, Yuno, feeling Asta is dead, assuming Asta dead, takes on the mantle, or the other half of the mantle that they shared, their dream, to become Wizard King, and he declares in all confidence that he is going to become the next Wizard King. And the chapter ends with Asta being washed ashore in some place that looks like Japan. And there are some fans who pointed out Yami, our beloved captain of the Black Bulls, to be some kind or like an isekai character. Isekai, a genre of manga and anime, really popular, meaning other world. Like isekai literally means other world. So isekai stories are other world stories where character gets teleported or warped or slips through reality or gets reborn into a different new world that is based on different rules, different physics, different set of just being a different universe. So Yami, sometimes jokingly, sometimes more seriously, being called an isekai character, seems to have originated from something that looks like real life Japan or something akin to Japan, and then having stranded in the Black Clover universe. And now we see the reverse of Asta being teleported out of the Black Clover universe and having ended up in some other world that seems to be Japan. Really interesting. I hope it's not gonna go too silly, but this might explain a lot about Yami without Yami necessarily being there and being involved in the next chapters in the plot, by explaining more about the world and giving more spotlight on the world where Yami, most likely Yami, is coming from, and thus also in contrast giving us information on the world and the universe of Black Clover, how the world constitutes. Is it some kind of world tree, Norse mythology like world where there are like different layers of reality? Is it a world that's more inspired by um, Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, um, or is it a complete fantasy world? Is the Black Clover world the isekai world, and Yami comes from the real like a, in Black Clover fantasy, real Japan world? It will be interesting to get some light on that, and for us readers to better understand the world of Black Clover. And that will also make it clearer how other parts of the Black Clover world are connected. Um, the world of the devils, the Clyphos, and the human world. And if there are other worlds and potential arcs or things behind uh, behind current events. So it will be interesting, and I predict. I want to give a prediction at this point. So I predict. I predict two things. Um, not at the same time. Either of two. Scenario A for the next few chapters. Chapters 337, 38, 39, and 40. We might get a focus on Asta. In that case, primarily and most likely exclusively Asta, with him having some kind of having experiences, but also some kind of development in that other world, possibly growing and acquiring the means, the skills, the power to save the day. Or potential two. Asta will be left ambiguous. He will be kind of left in the shadow, and we readers will not get that much elaboration on where Asta is, what that place is, and it will stay in the shadow, kind of as leaving it a fun way to interpretate for the readers. Is that the real world or not? So I see Tabata the mangaka playing with this real world Japan, this place where Asta stranded, being left in the shadow, being left unanswered, unexplained for now and for all of the future of Black Clover, being this place that never ever gets a lot of explanation. In this case, we will maybe see Asta re-emerge through whatever means in 4 to 5 chapters, being strengthened and miraculously having gained some secret skills, practiced, I don't know, in the secret arts of Japanese martial arts and kenjutsu, sword arts. I don't think Tabata will invest many chapters into explicitly displaying training methods and explaining in detail how characters can get stronger again. So I think the story gave us a few time skips in between. We just had a big time skip, and there has also been a real life skip, a real life break. The mangaka took quite a long time to collect his ideas, to collect his thoughts, and to move the story into its final arc. So I don't believe he will waste a lot of chapter, a lot of screen and panel time to the reader trying to implement another training arc again, after everyone upgrades to natural magic and then supreme magic and then ultimate magic, and what's going to be next, angelic mega magic, or like what what can be the next evolution. So I don't think the story will waste a lot of time on training. If there's a focus on the current cast of characters, Asta being left out, we will quickly transition into conflicts and probably into the introduction of other adversaries. And we have, like I said, quite a lot of devils from the Clivos left. So it will be really, really interesting to see if the rest of the devils, maybe now we should call them angels, with whom or if they are gonna be paired up. And also Adramelech, not having been turned into an angel, might hint at him being maybe content, being happy, wanting to stay the way he is as a devil. So maybe not all of the devils that are left up, Adramelech included, might become or might turn into angels. It will be very interesting to see that part, how that side of the cast of characters on the baddies, on the antagonists side, how they're gonna be built up as characters. Where is this gonna lead to ultimately? I think it's ultimately gonna lead to the final conflict of Asta and Lucius, who is in contract with Astaros. And here I wanna connect to the final point that I already alluded, and which I think many fans already picked up and theorized even before the reveal of the name of the Time Devil, Astaros. Astaros, of course, as a biblical Abrahamic devil, was already speculated. His name was speculated. The Time Devil, long, long, long before the reveal of the name, was speculated to be Astaros. His name was speculated to be Astaros. So this is pretty much just a confirmation of lots of fan theory. But now this being confirmed, from this theory onward, we can theorize a bit further. Asta being such a unique case, such a unique character, a one out of everyone in the Black Clover universe, being the only character with zero magic, not little magic, zero magic and zero mana, and him being born to Lucita, character who had also an unusual magic attribute and who also had the unusual property, possibly due to a curse, to absorb and steal life force and magic from all life and all beings surrounding herself. She being Asta's mother, and his father being still not elaborated and still not being confirmed whether or not that ever will be relevant. I do think it will be relevant. And there is the theory, or we can theorize further, I think, that there cannot be a lot of individuals who could do it. I mean, who could have done it? Who could have gone on with Asta's mom, with Lucita, like her property of sucking out life and energy, not unlike a succubus. There is not much possibility left to who or what Asta's father can be, and people have theorized Asta's father being a devil. So now with the reveal of Astaros, to me, I feel inclined to quickly say, hey, Astaros, only a devil could have been able to bang his mom, and his father not being revealed. His dad must be a devil. There's a devil whose name is Asteros. Asta's name is Asta, Asteros. Bam. His dad must be Asteros. Am I too quick to jump the gun? Maybe, but it's not a far-fetched theory. I don't have to look up some fringe reference biblical text and spin a hair-thin theory based on things that Tabata might have gotten his inspiration from. I think that's the charming thing about that theory. It's not really a far stretch. It's not far-fetched, so to say. It's pretty plausible, it makes sense, and it would explain a lot about Asta, why he's so strong, why he's so beef. But it would not explain why Asta has no magic. Maybe it just got sucked up all by his mother. I would love to have a different explanation, but I think whatever the explanation will be, I see this theory very likely and plausible. So the ultimate fight will be almost cliche, Star Wars like Luke versus Darth Vader, Asta versus Asteros. Asta, I'm your father. So I see that coming, definitely. So that's my long-term prediction. And I think any further predictions are really hard to make and depend on whether or not Tabata plans to end it there, whether or not he plans to have this be the final arc, and how much juice the story has left in it. We'll see. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. This turned out a long video again. Way too long. Way too long, like all my videos. So, thank you for tuning in. Bye.